Hey pilgrims, you have decided that you want to walk the Camino de Santiago and you are ready to start planning your trip. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to decide which Camino you're going to walk. There are many options. You can start it in France, you can start it in Spain, there's the Camino Portuguese, there's a traditional starting point in Paris. You could start in Germany, Switzerland, all over Europe. There are traditional starting points. I met a guy the day before I walked over the mountain called Osabreo, who was German. He walked out of his door and he just started walking. I met him on his 75th day of walking on his 70th birthday. So I got to spend his birthday with him. And then the next day I met him up on top of Osabreo and we toasted a glass of wine with some other pilgrims. And he hung out there for a while. Just sauntered down the mountain and I basically never saw him again. But it was a great experience. And he has a unique experience of living in Europe. You and I live in America, so we have to start our Camino from here. So how do we do that? Because I am a total amateur, I decided that I wanted to do the easiest, most accessible part of the Camino, and that's called the Camino Français. It's translated to the French way. So you start in a little village at the foothills of the Pyrenees called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and then you walk over the mountain range that day, and by day one you're in Spain, and then you spend the rest of your Camino in Spain. So how the heck do you get to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and why should you start there? First reason why you should start there is because they have a pilgrim's office, and as a pilgrim you need to identify yourself, register at the pilgrim's office, and you get this right here. It's called your pilgrim's passport. This document is mine is a mess right now because it spent the whole time with me on the Camino. It got ripped a little bit. I haven't done the shadow box things a lot of people do. I just kind of keep mine and I look at it every so often. So the reason why you need one of these is because you're going to be staying in albergues, which is a fancy word for saying hostel. And you cannot get a bed at a hostel unless you are a pilgrim. Not anybody that's traveling can just pop into one of these hostels and get a bed. They need to be a pilgrim. And the reason why is because these hostels are very, very cheap. I mean, extremely cheap. You get a bed, you get laundry facilities, bathroom facilities for maybe 3, 4, 5 euro a night. I'm gonna be referring to a lot of things as euros. The rate of exchange varies, so hopefully you have some sense of about how much a euro is worth. It was different in 2017 than it is now. So let's just say they were $4, $5, $6 a night to stay in an albergue. So when you get to Saint-Jean, you check in to the pilgrim station, you get one of these, you get stamps at all kinds of places. I'll go into detail about that in a future video. And then when you arrive into the city of Santiago, you will get your official pilgrim's passport that certifies that you walked the Camino de Santiago. So let's go ahead and get to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. I live on the East Coast. I live close to the city of Pittsburgh, maybe 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh, in a town called Greensburg. And I'm very lucky because there is an Amtrak train station right here. I can walk to it from my house. It's maybe 2 miles. So let me give you an overview of what I did, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail to help you out. I took a train to New York City. In New York City, I took another train out to JFK. I got on an airplane, flew to Paris. When I got to Paris, I got on one of those high-speed trains that took me to the city of Lyon, where I stayed with some friends for a couple days. And from Lyon, I flew to a town in France called Biarritz. Sometimes people call it Bayonne, but Biarritz is the name of the airport. The code is BIQ. I got to the airport and I took a taxi to my hotel, and then I spent the night in Bayonne, and the next morning I got up. I got on a train that was right across the street from my hotel, and that train dropped me off in the village of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. So it's a little bit complicated, but let me explain to you how I did this. First of all, I am a budget traveler. I do everything on the super budget. So I use this website called Momondo. It's a third-party booking site. There are lots of them out there. I just happen to like this one. And I like it because I can pick the time that I want to fly. I can pick the day. I can also play around a little bit with the days. I could do plus or minus, and it'll tell me the least expensive version. I happen to get a plane ticket, a one-way plane ticket from New York City to Paris for like $138. So yeah, of course, I'm gonna take that. And the train picks me up here. It's called the Pennsylvanian. It runs every day. So you get on the train at about 8 a.m. in Greensburg, and you get off at Penn Station in New York City at about 4:30, 4:45. So I traveled with luggage, and the reason why is because I had a pre-Camino and a post-Camino, and I didn't want to just have only my pilgrim's clothing to wear. So I actually brought a suitcase with me, and I will tell you how that works later. So I didn't want to bring my suitcase and go walk around New York City. I had about 3 hours before I had to get on a train to go out to JFK or whatever airport I flew out of. So I took it to Amtrak, and they have a luggage storage that you can just leave your luggage. It's like $10. You can leave it there for a couple hours, go up to New York City. I went to Times Square. I bought a watch. I ate some pizza. I did a lot of people watching. Then I went back, got my luggage, got on my train, went out to the airport, boom, flew to Paris. When I got to Paris, I had already pre-booked a train to take me from the Paris airport to visit my friends in Lyon. And I had a big gap of time because I didn't know if my flight was gonna be on time. Everything I'm doing for the first time. And even though I travel quite a bit, I have never done a solo trip like this before. So I wanted to leave myself a lot of time just to figure things out. The cool thing is, airports are the same. You just look up and you follow, there's a little train symbol, so I followed that. I found the train, I figured out where I was going. I got a croissant, and I just hung out, people watched. I really enjoyed my time in the Paris airport. So I went to Lyon, had a great time with my friends, and a little mini miracle happened that we were out and about touring the beautiful city of Lyon, France, and I found a shell in front of a church that we happened to walk by. So if that wasn't a sign that I was on the right path on the way to the Camino, I don't know what else is. So the next morning I had to catch a taxi to the train that took me to the airport in Lyon. It was a little bit complicated, but the cool thing is if you have a smartphone, you could figure out how to get anywhere. So tiny little flight. Whenever you want to fly within Europe, it is extremely affordable. It's very easy to do. The only time that it really adds up is if you have a lot of luggage. Sometimes your luggage can end up costing more than your ticket. I knew this going in because I had a piece of luggage with me, but my flight from Lyon to Biarritz was maybe $59, and my taxi ride from the airport in Biarritz to my hotel in Bayonne was maybe 25 euro. It was worth it though. It was the only time that I really paid for that type of transportation, just because I didn't want to have to stress about, oh, is there a bus that takes me? And I don't speak French. So I took a taxi, had a very relaxing last night as a civilian, started to transform myself into a pilgrim that night. The next morning, I got on the train and I was in full pilgrim mode, and I made it to the city of Saint-Jean. You'll know the train station, because you'll see all kinds of people like me standing around. Oh my God, what do I do? Where do I go? Everybody will have a backpack. Just kind of follow them and you will get there eventually. The train from Bayonne to Saint-Jean was maybe $10. You could buy your ticket right there at the train station. So once you get to Saint-Jean, you follow the crowds, you will see people with backpacks, and the most beautiful thing is you'll start seeing the shells and the arrows. They're gonna guide you on the Camino. That was a little bit about my journey to get to Saint-Jean. Everybody's is a little bit different. You can fly into Madrid, Barcelona. Some people fly into Pamplona and they take transport back to Saint-Jean. Some people start in Pamplona because they don't want to walk over the Pyrenees. It's really hard that first day. It's really hard that first day. So you kind of have to decide what you want to do, and part of the fun of doing this is figuring out how you're going to get to your starting point. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. My next video is going to be all about gear, all the things that you need, what I needed, what I didn't need. It's basically the good, the bad, and the donated. So thanks for tuning in, and buen camino, pilgrims.